Trump's Liberation Day tariffs. So yesterday, Trump announced that tariffs, he announced the long-awaited tariffs, the worldwide tariffs that he had across multiple different countries, basically against the world. But it wasn't what we thought it was. We thought that it was going to be a blanket tariff against all countries. It wasn't. It shows you that they have been doing research and that they had been basically, going through and finding out exactly what countries is doing what. They did specific calculations and they broke it all the way down. And he did a press conference, but he also released a book. And we'll go through that because we're going to go through Canada's response. We're going to go through J.D. Vance's explanation of it. But he released basically a nutshell, a summary of exactly why we are doing these tariffs. And I'm going to share that with you guys. And then I'm going to try to break it down from a C student's perspective so that you can better understand exactly why we need tariffs inside of the United States of America. This was Trump's announcement in a general sense. It was an hour-long live stream or press conference, but this is Trump's announcements on what happened with the tariffs, and then I'm going to break it down for you guys.
A single shipyard in China now produces more ships every year than all of the American shipyards combined. Think of that. And it was a business that we used to dominate. We used to dominate it totally. In short, chronic trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They're a national emergency that threatens our security and our very way of life. It's a very great threat to our country. And for these reasons, starting tomorrow, the United States will implement reciprocal tariffs on other nations. It's been a long time since we even thought of that.
So initially, we thought reciprocal tariffs were, if a country tariffs us back, then we're going to double it. Now, that does not mean that that's not true also. However, reciprocal tariffs, as Trump is explaining it in this press conference, means that he's going to tariff a country based off of how United States of America has been being taken advantage of over all of these decades, over all of your previous presidents, over all of the Biden administration, over all of the Obama administration, over all of the Clinton administration, over everybody. So he's saying that we've basically made the world rich, and we have. We have created the economic boom that is basically assisted China in becoming a world power. We have allowed for third world countries to take advantage of us and benefit off of us for decades. We have allowed for Europe to be able to import their cars or export their cars to the United States of America while not at the same time having a fair trade agreement and allowing for Americans to export their vehicles or their goods and services over into their state. And I was explaining to people yesterday in a nutshell that if you go over to go to these other countries, go and look at it, look at their economies. And I'm not just talking about the tourist destinations. Go over into these places and look at what these citizens are driving. Go into the towns, go into the cities, go and visit places outside of where people are on the resort and look at what is happening. Look at what they drive, look at the goods that they use, see how their culture is. They are interdependent on themselves while at the same time taking advantage of the United States of America. And I use Japan as the biggest example because Japanese automakers have always, since the 70s and the 80s, been making billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars off of American consumers. They don't drive American vehicles. They don't support American cars coming over. If you drive an American vehicle over in Japan, you are stunting. That's like, oh, you big dog, because you're willing to pay an egregious amount of money to then be able to drive that vehicle over there because it costs so much money to be able to buy a car that we take for granted. We'll say, oh, we don't care, whatever, it's just an American car. And then we value European, we value Japanese, we value Korean, we value all of these things. And we value everybody else's products. And we think that makes us special because we spending money. And don't get me wrong, I believe in capitalism. I believe in a free market, but I don't believe in being taken advantage of. I believe in us using each other, but I don't believe in being misused. So when you go over to Japan, you go over to Tokyo, you go over to these other countries, you go over to Europe, you go over to Amsterdam, you go over to these other places, they don't F with us like that. They F with our money. They F with our money. We are We are passport bros economically. You know what I'm saying? We mission at a cost, while we allow for everybody else to come into our country, take advantage of the American economic system, and then we subsidize them by giving them our tax dollars to feel comfortable because we've gotten so weak and we don't have a president, or we haven't had a president or legislators that actually stand up for America's first. And it don't mean that you in any, okay, here, let me break it down from this perspective. Let me break it down from this lens. For all of you people that want so bad to be accepted by people outside of the United States of America, because they're not bad. Remember when y'all was doing the whole Black Lives Matters things, even though y'all was being taken advantage of by a bunch of women that didn't even like men? The thing that y'all would say to us was, it doesn't mean that all lives don't matter, but we want to focus on Black people first right now. We need to make sure that we get, now y'all was misguided because of the reasons and all of the things that was going on, and y'all was tearing up your own neighborhoods. But the premise is the same. You said it's not that everybody else is not cool, but we want to make sure that we fix our own neighborhoods. We want to make sure that we get our own police reform. We want to make sure that we get you know what I'm saying, y'all was fighting for reparations and all of that. You wanted to focus on you, and you fought back against anybody that came in your way that didn't want to acknowledge Black Lives Matter. You made sure that white men and white women, made sure they was protesting on your behalf. You were out there doing the do. And when anybody said, no, all lives matters, you said, no, it doesn't mean that all lives don't matter, but we focus on getting ourselves right now. That's what you said. This is that on an economic scale, because your children, the reason why we said that the banks were too big to fail when we seen the economic collapse with the housing crisis in 2008 is because we don't make anything here anymore, and we subsidize other countries getting rich and taking advantage of us. And the reason that they were able to do it is because there were a whole lot of Democrats at the top, and this is the way to keep you on the Democratic plantation. They basically said, yo, the Clintons and all of that, hey, listen, guys, we want to be world peace. In reality, what they was doing was they was taking 50% off of the $1 billion that they would send over this country to the top, and then they was giving them the other $500 billion. They was giving that to them, and they was getting rich. That's why you see all of these senators and these legislators, they got these $100 million net worths. And you're like, how? How are they beating the S&P 500? How are they beating the people on Wall Street? Well, what do you think that they beating it by? Because they basically sold y'all short, but in order to maintain power, they have to make sure that you vote Democrat, even though I have never seen a Black person, not one, benefit from a Democrat policy, not one in my lifetime. As a 42-year-old man, as I've seen these neighborhoods, as I've been born in Detroit, Michigan, as I've seen so many Black people continue to be a part of the Democratic plantation, I have never in my entire life, not once, seen Black people pull themselves up out of poverty based off of Democrat policies. I've seen people break up their families. I've seen people be on Section 8 forever. I've seen people continue to take advantage of Pell Grants. I've seen people go to jail as a result of you know what I'm saying, finessing the system. I've seen crack and drugs and all of that stuff infiltrate y'all cities and y'all neighborhoods. I've seen white flight. I have never, not one time, and we continue to tie ourselves to it for whatever reason, but I have not once in my life seen anybody pull themselves up as a result of Democrat policies. Not one. I've seen cities get taken advantage of. I've seen legislators steal from the school system. I've seen Detroit, which was the blackest city in the United States of America, file for bankruptcy. I've seen mayors steal. I've seen governors steal. I've seen the school system and superintendents continue to make y'all schools go down. Never, not once have I ever seen any policy that has pulled Black people or anybody that votes Democrat. I've never seen any policy that gets y'all out of poverty, but y'all can't wait to give y'all tax dollars. You know what they give you? They give you higher taxes. You know why you got to pay higher taxes? Because other countries are basically subsidizing themselves, pulling themselves up out of your tax dollars, and they send all of their people over here so that they can send the money back to their countries. People come over here and then make a bunch of money, and you know where they send it? they take care of their parents, and they subsidize the economies back home that they came from. They send all of their money back home. That is a fact. They come over here, take advantage of your school system, take advantage of your tax dollars, take advantage of your economies, take advantage of your jobs, take advantage of your opportunities, and bust down your women and send all of the money back home. How are you supporting Democrat policies that don't work for you?
We used to think about it a lot. We didn't think about it for many decades, and you see what's happened. For nations that treat us badly, we will calculate the combined rate of all their tariffs, non-monetary barriers, and other forms of cheating. And because we are being very kind, we're kind people, very kind. You're not so kind when you got ripped off with your salaries. My auto worker friends and my Teamster friends and all of the unions that typically voted Democrat, they're not voting Democrat anymore because worker, whether union or non-worker, they're for the Republicans now. That's what happened. But we will charge them approximately half of what they are and have been charging us. So the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that, yes, but it would have been tough for a lot of countries. We didn't want to do that. I'd like to see the chart if you have it. Could you bring it up, Howard? This is our great Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Thanks, Howard. So if you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to bring, it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So 67%. So we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be because we never charge anybody anything. But now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%. So we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right?
Do you know why we were sending so much money over to Taiwan? That wasn't one that was highlighted during all of these times that we had Biden in office and Kamala Harris as the vice president. A lot of people are not familiar with it. When we were negotiating, for example, when Kamala Harris would say stuff like, yeah, we had a border bill. Well, they tied it to the Department of Homeland Security, which was directly tied to, our border and our immigration. And so what they did was they were leveraging the fact that we had a lot of illegal migrants coming into the country, and they were trying to say that we couldn't stop illegal migration until we had Congress pass monies that also gave resources to Israel, Taiwan, and then obviously Ukraine. So Ukraine was the big marketing pitch. Israel, and that's why you're seeing a lot of these protests, which I don't necessarily understand why we continue to support Israel, but that's just my own personal opinion. I'm objectively questioning why conservatives and Republicans continue to support Israel, but that's just, again, that's my own personal opinion. But also in that was Taiwan. Taiwan, we were basically having a financial and economic proxy war against China because Taiwan had become the semiconductor chip production powerhouse of the world. That is what they are known for, is producing semiconductor chips. So we need to make sure that we bring all manufacturing, including semiconductor, steel, automotive, aluminum, and every other product that we sell back to our own states so that we can stop giving money to subsidize another country to prevent them from being taken over by China. That's really what it is. People would always hear, oh man, we got to give money to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. And nobody ever questioned, well, why are we giving money over to Taiwan? Because Taiwan was a semiconductor chip powerhouse that we would need in order to continue to push our economy forward from a technological perspective. That's why we were giving money to Taiwan. Your tax dollars going to other places to subsidize them, to prevent them from doing business with another country because we didn't make things inside of the United States of America. That's why. So then it became tied up in border bills and all of this stuff that had nothing to do with immigration into our country. And this is how politicians finesse you, because while they're out there fundraising and protesting and saying F Trump, in reality, what they're doing is saying fill my pocket so that we can sell United States of America short. And this is why they have the ability to tariff us, because tariffs, or the true cost of doing business with another country, which is not directly only tied to tariffs in itself, is also the true cost of us subsidizing another economy. And so when they did these calculations, what you see, which it pains me to know that a lot of people, most people can't even read past the third grade level. It pains me that people will sit here inside of my chat or in my wrong and F Trump and all of that, when they can't even read or type it past a third grade level. They will debate you, but don't even own economics work inside of their own household. They don't have $1,000 if an emergency happened on their own soil in their own backyard, or if they got a flat tire. But they will sit here and debate you back and forth. Don't have a pot to piss in. Don't truly even understand math, never passed algebra, never passed calculus, never even took statistics, but they will sit here and tell you, oh, no, it's not because of tariffs for other countries. You don't really understand the true cost of doing business with somebody else. And so when they break these calculations down, China, the EU, Vietnam, Taiwan, Japan, India, South Korea, Thailand, when they break this down and they start to have a conversation and they say, listen, this is what it truly costs us. This is why we're at a trade deficit. This is why they're getting rich, because we're subsidizing their economy. Why are you against America and you're for them and you've never even been there? Why are you not America first? Why are you so culturally ignorant? It's because you've been programmed from a talking point from Democrats and people that are telling you to vote blue because you're just a part of the 78 and the 92%, but you are against your own children's future and your future. You want to know why you're so poor and why you can't get a job right out of high school anymore, and why they're telling you got to go to college and you can't just go to college for liberal arts anymore. You got to go to college for a STEM degree, and you got to take out a bunch of student loans, and then hopefully you're making enough money to be able to pay it back, and you don't get laid off, and you can't necessarily get a job with the federal government to subsidize your lifestyle anymore, is because your parents did what you doing right now, and they voted blue, and they don't support America. Your parents and your grandparents sold you short, and now you gonna sell your kids short. And this is, in my opinion, the true definition of generational trauma. You are passing down your bad voting habits onto your children because you don't even understand that you have to make a sacrifice so that your kids can be able to thrive. Your children should be able to get a good job right out of high school to support their family, give them a white picket fence and be able to raise their family, 2-parent household, 4 kids, and be able to be okay. But you can't do that no more because you're so busy being stupid. You're voluntarily ignorant, and you want to have a conversation about how tariffs are hurting us. No, tariffs are killing you, and that's why you don't have no jobs. That's why we don't make nothing. That's why you can't have no factories. That's why you can't get no job out of high school. The reason why there's a huge divide between the rich and the poor is because our Democrats sold out the middle class. This is why we have to have a huge transformational president that comes in and say, all right, listen, no more giving it away for the low. No more giving it away for the low. We can't do that anymore. We got to have transformational change because we got to drag your monkey ass to the promised land, even though you don't know what's best for you. If you read the Bible, if you read study the children of Israel, they did the same thing. God took them out of. Make sure that you do what I tell you to do, because it's going to be the land of milk and honey, and your children are going to benefit from it. And you know what they did? At the end of the day, you know what they did? They started worshiping other guys that had nothing to do with anything that was beneficial for them. And then none of them that got taken out of slavery, none of them that was under Pharaoh's order, none of them could see the land of milk and honey. He had to completely erase them because they were all toxic and cancerous, and they had all been indoctrinated by the people that came before them to want to go back into slavery. We was better under Pharaoh's orders. We was better getting our backs whipped in. That is the exact thing that you see from Americans today, and why you need a leader to have transformational change to drag your ass back to the promised land so that your children hopefully can get the land of milk and honey, and they can kill you off because you wasn't no good to us anyway. That's what I conflated. That's what I equated to. When I read the Bible, I'm looking at the same type of people that's voting against their best interests and want to go back on the Democratic plantation and want to go back under Pharaoh's rule because you don't want to trust that God is going to take you to the place that you're supposed to be. That's literally what I see happening in the United States of America. So many people are willing to sell us out, and they don't care anything about their own children.
Everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually, they're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough.
Don't drive y'all cars.
People.
They don't even drive y'all cars.
And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46% and much higher for certain items like cars, little items like cars. 46%, we're charging them 24%. India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The prime minister just left. He's a great friend of mine.
Somebody
but I said,
you're
a friend.
You said you voted blue before Trump too. I did. That's not a secret. Absolutely, I voted blue because I was an idiot too. I had to break out of the matrix and ultimately open up my mind and say, wait a minute. If exactly what I'm doing in the way that I'm raised in our value system and the ways that we think, and we don't want open borders, and I don't like men and women's bathrooms and stuff like that, aligns with conservative values, why am I still believing what my family and what my church taught me to vote blue? It took some deep programming. It was some hard lessons that I had to learn that helped me to realize that now that I look back at my own community and my own family and my own church and all of this stuff that I was raised in, I'm like, man, they still stuck. They still stuck in that mentality. You're not the neighborhood that you were raised in. Just because you was raised in a hood don't mean that you still got to have a hood mentality. It take deprogramming. You gotta make sure that you do the work to get yourself out of that stupid mentality so that you can thrive and you can give your children a better chance than you had. You don't have to be your hood. You don't have to be your family. You don't have to be the thing that you was raised to believe. You don't have to be the party that you used to vote for. It's okay to change and be better. When I was a child, I thought like a child. When I was an idiot, I thought like an idiot. But then I became a man and I put away childish things. You're supposed to evolve and get better as you get older. If you're still the same idiot that you was because you keeping it real from the things you used to do that was stupid, you're an idiot. You're supposed to get better as you get older. That's why you see most people that as they evolve, they turn to being Republican. They turn to being conservative. They don't turn to be blue. People that are successful, that get more success, that grow, that evolve, that becomes more success, they don't go and then switch over to being liberal. They switch to being conservative because they realize I was an idiot.
Friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades. And it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China charged. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs. And they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand. And the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe, but they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it. Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He was a fantastic man. He was unfortunately taken from us, assassination. But I went to him and I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. A trade is not fair. And he said, I know that. I know that. And he was a great gentleman. He was a fantastic man, but he understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. He said, I know that. And we worked out a deal, and it would have been a much better deal. But frankly, there were many years left on the deal that was made previous to my getting there. But it was something. If you look at Switzerland, 61% to 31%, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America. United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. You know, we're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. Brazil, 10%, 10%, Bangladesh.
So essentially, Trump went through, in a nutshell, Trump went through and he actually broke down exactly why we're still being nice people to other people, even though we're subsidizing their economies. But we have all the leverage. We have all the leverage. They do business with us. They take advantage of our consumers. Shout out to everybody that continues to use Temu and Shein to get your cheap products and your cheap items. Shout out to everybody that continues to subsidize your bad lifestyle with products you don't even need in places that you don't even rock with, and you're selling your own people short with the American economy. Congratulations to you guys.